Building the Cervelo S5 VWD frame, which I've bought, and putting in rotor cranks, which are very easy to install. When you first install them, you back off this castellated nut here, right back so it's against the crank arm, and that pushes through, and then the nut here is tightened up to 35 to 40 Newton meters, and that drives it on. And then, if you want to reverse it, you just undo the nut and undo the washer and wind it in again, and it actually pulls it off. Now once you've got it tightened up, to take the play out of the crank, you merely turn this little spider arm here on the inside up to the tension. So just back it off here. I'll move this around so you can see. Just back that tension off to get the play, and to take the play out of it, you just move it round to firm. Make sure you're sort of still moving, and then once you're there, you just tighten that little screw up there to just make sure that little crank arm castellated nut doesn't move. I'm using Dura-Ace 9000 derailleurs. In fact, I'm using Dura-Ace right through the bike except for rotor cranks, and picking a few components. I'm going to be using Planet X brake calipers because they're lighter, and all reviews for these show them to be quite a very good modulation system. So it's going to be interesting. They're about half the weight of the Dura-Ace anyway. So in order to get the bike weight down, I'm being a bit of a weight weenie and just choosing some components to try and reduce weight. Also using the Rotor QXL rings, which are a new one out. They got a 16% bias on them. The standard Q rings have a 10% bias, and the isometrics are 20%. So obviously Rotor have decided that this is possibly ultimate, and obviously considering the perhaps isometrics a bit too much. It's going to be interesting to try because I've been riding Q rings on my other bike for about 3 years, so it'll be interesting to see just how these go. Okay, headset. So we've put the crown washer down onto the, what do you call this, Mike? The fork?
Yeah,
bottom fork. So we just used an old bearing and just tapped it down carefully all the way around with an open-ended crescent. So we've got that goes on first. That's just a spare bearing. We've got the bottom bearing, then the top bearing, then the compression ring, and then the collar and headset. Right. Cervelo calls for the height of the fork to be 4 mm below the stem when it's assembled with all its spaces, and that's the maximum height that you can have, is 50 mm between the stem and the headset. So I've got to be 4 mm below that top point, cut it off. Well, I don't need to because this is pretty much there, but it's about 3 mm. So just to make sure I'm being particular, I'm actually sanding the top off down to a 1 mm line. So I've just carefully put a piece of tape around there, and that's the line there, and I'm just sanding down to get to that point, and then I'll just remeasure to make sure it's enough room, and then I'll set it in with the epoxy. So we've got the steerer to the right length. We've got the little insert here, which we've just cleaned with an isopropyl alcohol prep pad, which came with the kit, and that just cleans the surface of here and there, and that's to clean it with finger oils. And then we've got the 2-pack epoxy, which we're just going to cut. It's got work time, it's got all the instructions on it. Just mix it together and glue it all in. So just mixing the epoxy now. It's changing colour. It's gone from clear to this milky white. And then I'm just going to apply it onto the end of this, and then I'm going to shove it in there. Well, that couldn't be easier. You just apply the epoxy on and just push it in. As you push it in, you turn it so that it spreads the epoxy all the way around the stirrer tube. And a little bit came off around the, squeezed out around the end, which is what you expect, and that's good, means it's all over. And I've just wiped that off with a tissue. Cool. I can give it a light sand if needs be, with a very, very fine paper. The rear brake on the Cervelo S5 VWD has this little bracket which goes onto the bike like that. So that's how you put the brake. You tighten this nut here and get it all set. Now the little grub screw on top allows you to turn the brake once this is all tightened up so that you can centre it. And then there's a little grub screw there where my finger's pointing, which allows you to change the tension on the spring, and that allows for minor micro adjustment of the centering and to sort of allow which side comes on first. So it's pretty clever. This little cam here on the side pulls up and allows the brakes to work like that. So it can be interesting to see because they've got some very good reviews, these. This is the Cervelo seat post, and it has a sort of a sliding arrangement like this, which bolts onto the clamps onto the rails of the seat, and it's got this serrated edge which clamps up to the other one on the other side like that, and they of course bolt through here. You can only get it go on one side because one side's beveled and the other side has got the serrated edge, and that allows you to clamp them up together and get the seat post level, and then you do it up to the correct torque, which I think is 12 Newton meters. And of course you've got this arrangement here where you can take this out. It's just exactly the same, so you can move the seat post forward, say for a TT section, in a different position. Okay. And put that together. When feeding the cable guide down, you've got this little cable guide just pries off gently, and that's what it looks like. Can't quite see. Just a clip, and that just clips on. This is the cable thingy bobby, whatever, and that comes out of that, and this little thing on the end here just goes in so you can release it and get it out.